as people are changing the name, Jody, I'm going to start. And what you can do, Jody, if you see people who didn't do it, you can text them on the chat box. Good morning, everyone. Absolutely. We're super excited to have you this morning. Today, the focus is around conferring. And as you can see here in this, in the cycle of the workshop, the conferring part happens during that 40 minutes independent work when the students are working at their desk. So this is when, yes, thank you, Lauren. This is when as a teacher, you've got your opportunity to confer one-on-one with students or with small group of students. So to move on to the next slide, what we're going to do again is just to get your feeling, like we want to know what's the power of conferring, but also what is tricky. And we're looking for your trickies because we're going to address them. So we're going to ask you, Jody is going to put the link of the Jamboard in the chat box, and you will be able to go and add your notes on the Jamboard. I think we have discussed the Jamboard before, but just for any newcomers, the Jamboard is a tool in the, it's an extension in the Google Suite that now we did have many teachers using it during the this online learning to create collaboration amongst their students, and it was very powerful. So what we're asking you to do is, as you see the pointer that Lauren is doing, on the left side, you can add a sticky note. Now Lauren is going to write a wonderful note about me, saying how beautiful I am this morning. But I'm not asking you to compliment me on your post-it. Only Lauren can do this. You guys, what we're asking you to do is give us comments on the power of conferring, but also what is tricky.
Sorry, Julie, it took me a minute. I had the wrong link to begin with.
We're also going to ask you guys, I still see a few people with their mics on. I would ask you just for the noise to turn off your mics, turn on your camera though, in case, as I warned the girls, I'm planning to do a few jokes, so I want to see your face so I can see if my jokes are funny or not. Okay, Vincent, one-to-one feedback.
Julie, just before you start responding, there's still a couple people that haven't indicated a grade beside their names. So if you are late joining us, what we'd like you to do is go over your picture and your profile picture. You'll have 3 dots there. We're going to ask you to rename yourself, first name, last name, and a grade, please.
So I'm going to try to answer a few of your questions now as you're typing. If I don't have a chance to answer them all, we will answer them in our communication that we're sending at the end of the day. So the power of conferring, connecting with kids, one-on-one target, exactly what they need. I love this. One-on-one is powerful, better awareness of where each student is, great for the teacher to check in with students and ask clarification. Yeah, perfect. I'm going just comment back. I'm going to share with you my favorite story. I think I did already share it with you, but to go back to that comment about target exactly what they need, that feedback that we're giving to the students need to be as specific as possible. The best example that I'm giving you is the example that Dr. Stauffer, a literacy expert, shared with us a few years ago. Let's say my car breaks down on Deerfoot. The first thing that I'm going to do is to call my husband, call him and I say, oh my God, Guy, I broke down. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. He's going to tell me, Julie, lift up the hood and look under. So I'm going to look under and he's going to say, Julie, look harder. Come on, look harder. You can do this. I could be looking all day long. If his feedback is not specific enough, I will not be able to fix my car. So we have to think when we're giving feedback to our students that we're not sending them searching under the hood. We need to be specific. I'm thinking on me as a teacher, my favorite comment was add more details. Well, often that comment was kind of sending the kids searching under the hood. It was not specific enough. When I'm looking at the tricky, managing other students while conferring, one of the big things is you need that routine established. You need that cycle of workshop that students know that I need your attention, guys, for 10 minutes, and then you work independently. Obviously, with the grade 1, their stamina of them working independently will be shorter, but we're going to build on this. But you need to have that classroom management and those routines super well established. Like for me, during that independent work, that's when I had a bandana, and the students actually made it for me with like funky stuff on it, but they knew that when Madame had that on her head, no one could come to see me unless I saw blood or barf. But they knew, and I had to be strict, like, no, don't come and see me. And that's when you're starting to build their independence. If you have a question, what should you do? Go ask 2 friends before to see me. What I love about this writer's workshop model is that students have a partner. So the first person you should go see is your partner. Go look on the wall. If the question is that you don't know how to spell a word, don't come and see me. Remember, we've got our posters on the wall that says you need to gum it, guess the word, underline it, and move along, for example. Like just those reminders. So that stamina, you need to build it. And it kind of reminds me of that Daily 5. I know many of you might be using Daily 5 or have used Daily 5, but like you're building on it bit by bit. Get stuck. Am I missing anyone, ladies, that were not? Kids lose focus when they're working directly with you. Yes, and I find like that engagement piece, I find with the writer's workshop, what I love the most is that student gets to choose what they can write about. So I find that engagement, when they have that choice, is way higher than me when I'm reflecting back in my years when I was teaching and was using that journal entry, write to me about your weekend. Kids were not engaged. But when I'm giving them the choice that during the writing, they can write about Beyblades and Pokemon cards, that engagement is usually there, so they will stay on the writing.
And yeah, so some like talking as well, like some of the less needy students might not get conferring as often. One of the things that I saw when I was in a classroom was he actually had the students write down when they had their conference. There was a big chart Monday to Friday, and then they wrote their name down. So that teacher, he didn't have to be like as organized, like writing down who he had and what day. So he could actually just go look at the wall and see, oh, here's the students they've conferred with today. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen Julie in a while. That she's never one on my list for today. So working smarter, not harder, probably not in the early grades, but in upper elementary.
Good point, Lauren. Also, I think we need to add about that it's kind of like guided reading. You don't need to work with all the students the same amount of time. My stronger students, I mean, to work them only once, like meet them once, like on Monday, give them some goals that they need to work on, and they can fly with it, right? So I may not need to connect with them as often as my struggling writers. Anyway, yeah. So we'll move on.
Getting stuck on a student. I have an image that I can share with you. If you just write your name down about how to kind of float between, so that you're not spending much time on one student, you can get through a few.
Oh, thank you, Colleen, for sharing this resource. I didn't know about this. So anyway, we'll try to answer some of your questions during the presentation, and if not, we will answer them by email later on. So this is what the architecture of a conference, that's what it looks like. You can find the detail in the guide, page 72 to 84, but in average, a conference should be 5 to 8 minutes. So you always want to start with that research. This is when you're sitting with that kid and you're asking him on the spot, like, what's going on? Like you're asking them previous knowledge based on the review of the student writing. Like you're asking the students, what are you working on? This is when, and this is the tip. If we want to keep those conference short, this is not for the students say, oh, I'm telling you about the trip last summer, I went to Florida, and then. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for the content of the story. We're looking for the how, what skill is he working on? So we're looking at that teaching point. Then decide, so once you find out what skill the student is working on, you're going to decide what will be that thing that makes the biggest impact on the writing. Often I'm going to use myself as a teacher. Often I would choose the punctuation and the capital letters because that was an easy go for me. That's the first thing that was like glaring in my eyes. But really, is it what's making the biggest impact on the students? No, I want to be able for them to express, to share their message. Compliment and teach. You always want to start with, and I always have my post-its where I would have like a smiley face. Good job, buddy. I'm seeing that you are starting to do this and it's wonderful. And then this is when you're going to do that teach, where you're going to model and demonstrate a tip that you want them to work on. And then that link, this is when you're repeating the teaching point and you're telling them to continue doing the work. This is when often, as a way to make sure that the students knew what to work on, that's when I would ask them to repeat to me, okay, what's your goal now? What are you going to work on? So 5 to 8 minutes. It will take you longer. I know me, it was when I started, I really had to have, and we'll show you a bit later, but it's rocky. At the beginning, it's rocky, it's clunky, it doesn't feel natural. My best tip for you is go with an authentic heart, like try to listen, to be there for that student, for that special 5 to 8 minutes that you have one-on-one with that student. Sorry, Lauren.
Yeah, and not only is it going to be clunky for you, it's going to be clunky for them. So kind of the signature phrase is, how's it going? How's it going with your writing? And you're going to get your students saying, yeah, it's fine. It's good. Mm-hmm. Right? And so you also have to coach and teach them into that piece of how to be, have that kind of metacognitive process. Because if they're not really thinking about what specifically they're working on in their writing, then they're not going to be able to give you a good answer. And you'll see in the video as well, oftentimes it's like, do you need any help? No, I'm good. And so that's something that you really need to keep in mind as well when you kind of start the conferring, and kind of pull out maybe some things that you're noticing to help them understand what that language and what that conversation and within a conference looks like.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lauren. Yes, Sally, we're going to answer that in a few minutes. Thank you for your comment. So that conferring cheat sheet and prompts, as I said, we're hoping to keep it between 5 to 8 minutes because you're hoping to be able to see 4 kids every day if you can. Again, be gentle with yourself because you're learners. You're going to learn how to do that conference. I love this cheat sheet. This was created by a teacher who shared that with us. And as you can see, this is the same sheet. We just made it so you could read it better. But during your research, this is what you're looking for. It's only between 0 to 2 minutes, but here are some things that you might see. This is a sheet, especially when you begin, that I would have with you. As you're conferring with students, this is a great support to help you having these coming more naturally to you.
And the one thing too, when it talks about at the beginning that research, it's only 0 to 2 minutes. So what are you working on as a writer? Can you take me for a tour of your writing? Mm-hmm. Note that it's not, can you read me your writing? Because you don't have a ton of time, right? So in this time when you're doing the research, you're kind of power reading as they're talking to you. So you're getting a really good idea, you're skim reading. So you can get a kind of an overall idea of what their writing is. Because one of the questions that we had in our last group that I wanted to bring up was, well, am I supposed to be taking all these pieces of writing home and reading them all night and then knowing what to confer with? Absolutely not. No way. You're going to do that in the research phase.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lauren. That's good.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to show you one of the masters, Carl Anderson. He's the master of conferring. Jody and Julie bug me all the time about how much.
Oh, yeah. Lauren loves him.
Love him. Like not like that. Like I love how he confers. Anyways, that's awkward. So he's got a really great book that we'll talk about later. But what I want you to notice in this specific video is what are some things that you're seeing in terms of the architecture of a conference? Can you see anything specifically that he's doing? And then just kind of how he's responding and working around this little student. So before we do that, I just want you to see what her writing looks like. So she's going to be talking about her writing a little bit. And I'm going to give you just a minute so you can get an idea of what Carl's going to be looking at.
Okay, so we had a bit of technical difficulty
sound. So I'm going to play the video for you, but if you're really struggling to hear it, please just put it in the chat, and then we have a bit of a backup plan. But if we can, I'm going to try to get this video to work.
How's your writing going?
Good.
What you doing?
Reading your book.
Okay, this is a book you're writing about animals? Okay, and looks like you've written about penguins, and you're also writing about dogs so far too. Okay, what do you think you're doing to make a really good nonfiction book about animals?
Learning facts in a book.
You've been learning facts in the book, and what are you doing with those facts when you write your book? Because you've been learning facts about penguins and dogs, and now what are you doing with the facts?
Making a book.
You're making a book out of them. What kinds of facts are you putting in your book?
Penguins can't fly. Penguins have black and white feathers.
They have black and white feathers, and some are big and some are small. Okay, so it looks like some of the facts you've been learning about the way penguins look, right? Okay. Are there any other kinds of details you want to put in your writing?
No.
Okay. Is there something you want help with? You're doing pretty well. I feel like you got a good head of steam here. So I do have an idea for you. Okay. I noticed that you have these different chapters about different kinds of animals. Fantastic. People are going to know a lot about all these different animals, right? And I noticed on this page that you're using descriptive facts. Okay, you are describing exactly what penguins look like. You got the color of their feathers, and you're saying that some are pretty big and some are small. Okay, so you're trying to describe their size. So you've got these descriptive facts in your writing. One thing you can do to grow as a writer is learn about other kinds of details. Okay, and one other kind of detail you can include in your writing are action facts. Okay, that's where you tell what the thing you're writing about does. Okay, so I'm going to show you some in the book. Okay, and then I'll help you come up with some action facts. Okay, like this book right here is about grasshoppers. Okay, and
So it's like all about grasshoppers.
yeah, it's got like a couple kind of chapters about things that grasshoppers do. And on this page, we learn we get action facts, the things that grasshoppers do, like grasshoppers hop. Grasshoppers' back legs push them up into the air. That's what it does, right? In fact, its legs do that. There is description in the fun fact on this page. Grasshoppers have 4 short legs and 2 long, strong back legs, but these are action facts. You've got this kind of fact in your writing when you're describing what it looks like. This is what the grasshopper does. Or right over here, grasshoppers sing. They rub their wings together, just like you do when you sing, right? There's invisible wings, right? We sing with our vocal cords, right? Grasshoppers rub wings together, but that's what it does. That's an action fact. Okay, so that's one of the tricks of writing nonfiction, that that you do describe what things look like, but you also describe what things do. Okay, and the way that you can come up with action facts is you just kind of picture what you're writing about in your mind, like you picture the animal you're writing about, and you try to see different things that it does with its body. Okay, penguins have wings, penguins have feet, penguins have beaks. What are some of the things that it does with those parts of its body? So what are some of the things that penguins do?
They use their wings to like move.
Oh, so they
help them walk.
They move their wings back and forth to help them walk. Fantastic. I just saw some penguins in the video, and you're right, they exactly do that. They look pretty funny, don't they? What else do they do? So
they dive in the water.
They dive in the water. Fantastic. So I guess they use their head and their feet for that, right? So that's how you can think of that. So they dive. What else do they do?
They lay eggs.
They lay eggs. So they do a lot of different things, right? Those are all action facts. If you put those action facts on this page along with the description, people learn even more about penguins. Okay, so I'm going to ask you right now to add those action facts to the page. Okay, how they use their wings to help them move back and forth and walk, how they dive in the water, how they lay eggs. Okay, and you can write those all right there. Try to get that all down if you can. Okay, come back in a little bit and see how it goes. Okay.
Something that I love about, yes, what did you think? Would you be in love as well with Carl Anderson? He's not bad. He's really good. See, Lauren, that is a good joke. I saw Robin having a nice smile. Thank you, Robin. What I love about his is that he was really digging deeper, right? Like, do you need any help? Like, no. One thing that I love too is that he ask her a question until the answer came from him. He didn't put the words in her mouth. He really waited for her. And I think that's super important. I am the first one guilty of it. Even like last week with my own son, 2 things that I'm guilty. We were working on his writing. And the first thing, before I asked him to read anything, I took my pen, and right away I started highlighting some of the misspelling that he had. What message am I sending to my son? I'm sending the message, my goodness, your writing is not good. Look at all the mistakes that you have, right? That's kind of a way of putting down his confidence. He won't be willing to take risk anymore, because the first thing that I'm highlighting, I'm putting the priority on his spelling. And then the second thing, because usually I'm in a rush, it's like, okay, buddy, this is good, but maybe you could add this sentence there to make it better. Like, I'm giving the words. But again, we're removing that chance for the students to own the writing and to build that confidence. Lauren, do you want to comment about Carl? Because I know you have lots to say about them.
Yeah, so as Julie said, you always want the ideas to come from them. So in the chat, can we, if you want to just contribute a little bit, what are some things that you noticed? What were some of his moves as a teacher doing a conference in that writing? And while you're doing that, I will just share my love of Carl Anderson to you. So you will have noticed, this is a grade 1 student. So one thing I'll show you just quickly is, this is his book that I'm obsessed with. And in this book, he has examples of conferring from K to 8. And not only does he have the examples, he talks about the follow-up, but he also talks about his process through it and what he noticed. And so some of the language that I heard him use was pretty descriptive for grade 1. But what he does is he's starting to push and lift the level of those students as writers. So that student now knows there's 2 different types of facts in writing, and what descriptive details versus action facts are. And so that's really powerful. Now, he used a lot of fancy words and he knew exactly what he was doing, even though she didn't know what to work on. But the one thing I love about him in his book is he talks about his first conference and how it was an absolute nightmare, and how it's definitely something that you need to grow into. So his example was, he had a student and he said, how's it going with your writing? And her response was, it's good. And then he's like, okay. And he walked away because he didn't know what to do. Right. And so he's known as one of the masters of conferring. But this is his whole career has been dedicated to that.
Oh, wow.
And so you can see on the second page, that's now what she's worked on. Penguins dive in water, they waddle to walk.
I'm reading the comments, everyone. Yep. Yep. Awesome. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let you try it. So bear with us with the technology. Jody's in charge. Everything will be fantastic. She's going to create breakout rooms. So this is why we've used your name. We're going to group you in groups of people teaching the same grade. Jody's going to put the link in the chat box now of that links. This is where you're going to access a folder, Google folder, and within that folder, you will see that we have given you writing samples for each grade, grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. I believe, Jody, are we grouping grade 3 and 4 together?
Yeah, we are. The groups are ready to go, Julie.
Oh, might be frozen. It's either me or you guys. So what we want you to do is, when you go to this folder, you're going to, as a group, read. You choose. There's 2 samples in each. You're going to choose one sample, one exemplar. But Lauren, I want you to show the comment box. We want you see where Lauren's cursor is. We want you to go add a comment. So Lauren is going to highlight a piece of writing because he is. And she's going to highlight one good thing that the student did and one area that the student should work on. So this is your ask. You're going as a team to look at some writing samples, highlight one good thing that the student did, one compliment that you would give to that student, but also the next step, what would be one learning goal, one thing that the student could work on? Was there any big, because I think that power of collaboration was really good, and talking as a great team. So is there anything that people would like to share? Take the mic or use the chat box. Giving you a few seconds before we move on.
It's very helpful to see what other teachers see, because I think that can be my struggle sometimes, is not knowing, you know, I can see some things, but it's really good to hear what other people see in the writing and how they would make suggestions or confer with their students. So it's just that power of multiple eyes. And
yep. Yeah. One of the powerful PLs that I did, and it can be done at any grade level, is when we would choose samples from our class writing, and we would bring them and we would share them with each other, and then we'd have dialogue and conversation about what it is that we were seeing, where were the things that, you know, the lifting that could happen, how could that look? Because you're right, Kim, we start to get kind of insular and we start to focus on specific things about our writing. It's always nice to have other people's perspectives. And I think it grows the entire team when you're looking at these, and then you're creating some consistency too. It's almost like a norming meeting where you're talking and you're saying, yeah, you know what, like this is what I would be focusing on. This is what I would be assessing it as. Here is the teaching point that I would be looking for. So I think that's a really powerful piece to doing this collaboratively. Yep.
And then to highlight tips, because I'm sure if we were looking at Winnie copies, I'm sure if Winnie is not in Jacqueline's class, well, I'm sure as Jacqueline is reading Winnie's copy, she's thinking, oh, this is the same kind of mistake that my little Dylan makes in my class, right? So together, when you're sharing stuff, it will apply to students back in your classroom for sure. Anyone else? Oh, and one good thing about this, you want to use, what I love with the writer's workshop is that at the beginning of each unit, you do that on-demand writing. So that's when all the students are doing the same piece of writing. So this would be the perfect opportunity for you guys at the beginning and at the end, because we do it at the beginning and at the end of the unit. This is what you could use to collaborate as a team. This one, and I think this came as one of the chat, I forget who talked about that, but sometimes as teachers, we don't know what to say. We don't know what compliments to give or what tips to move the writers forward. This is one of the best resource that we have. It comes from the book If Then. So you can see you can see the different pages that you have. So there's a section for the narrative, information, and argument writing. Lauren, I'm not sure if you want to share your screen to show on the website where to find it. We don't have to, but
yeah, we'll do it after the next slide. But if just this is what the book will look like in your kit, it's called the If Then curriculum. And so that's just literally a screenshot right out of the book.
And then, so what I love about this, it's kind of hard to see now on this page, but the idea is once you've read all of your students, then if you see, so if I'm looking at the first thing, that the story lacks focus, they're providing you a few suggestions of ideas or tips that you can give to that students. So I find like most of the if that they have highlighted is stuff that you see in your own students' class. So this is a really good way to get you out of it. Now, as a teacher, sometimes I would not necessarily recommend you having your If Then book right next to you when you confer, right? Like, because you would not necessarily have the time to do your conference and say, oh, just wait, buddy, I'll flip through my book to give you the answer, right? So instead, what you might say is just say, hold on, buddy, I'm going to get back to you later tomorrow with a goal. So then you take the time to go and search from it to it in that book. I like Sally's comment about on-demand writing. When you're saying you're not, like sometimes it takes a long time to read them out. Now, this is when Jody, do you want to comment? Because I know you like talking about
Julie, I put a comment. We're going to address the on-demands tomorrow and then how you can leverage those on-demands in your teaching and how they can be a really valuable tool for your learning in your classroom. So we're going to deal with that tomorrow in our assessment session.
And a quick way to organize them, Sally, so you don't have to sit and read all of them before you leave.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sally. I guess they're keeping you on the hook. They really want you to come tomorrow. I was going to tell you the answer, but I guess I can't. Okay, let's move on.
Julie, you have 12 minutes left. So
okay, let's move on. Let's move on. And
so yeah, so another thing on the online resources that's available are student samples, which you did see. But what I really love are the annotated writing pieces. And so what it is you'll see, you'll have an option to look at the actual piece of writing. Then what they do is they type it up and they annotate it for you. And so if you're new to this, or you're feeling really uncomfortable, or you feel like you really only talk about like perhaps like the organization of writing, and you want to maybe support the students in the more the meat and potatoes of it in your conferring, it gives you things, it shows you on the side about what the reader, or what the writer, sorry, is actually doing. So I'm going to show you right now where we're going to find a few of these things.
And Lauren, can I just, this is something that you would leverage, you could leverage in a small group scenario. You could do a whole class sharing this and having a conversation with it, or alternatively, you could be using these as a mentor text when you're doing your one-on-one conference. So they can be leveraged in many different ways.
Yeah. So what you'll do is you'll click on your resource that you've registered, which you will be doing in the fall. Some of you I know have access to this. And then you'll see all of these goodies here. Now, if you click on the if-then curriculum, which Julie was just talking about, it'll give you what they're called conferring scenario charts. And so here, the story lacks focus. After acknowledging what the student's doing well, you might say, here's what you're going to leave them with. Story seems to be missing important information. Story has no tension. There's another one here, like, this is so common in grade 2. The writer seems to throw in a lot of random details, or it's swamped with dialogue, but it's not really going anywhere. So here's what you're going to say. Here's what you're going to leave them with. So that's a really, really great resource. And there's also these little customizable labels. So it gives you what the teaching point would be. Nope.
That's not it.
It says a Word document. It opens as a Word document. But it's pretty much like a post-it kind of. It's already written for you, so you could take it. It's a label, so you would leave it in the notebook or on the sheet of the student.
Yeah, so here it is right here. So here's what you're going to leave the writer with. So there's little
no, Lauren, we're not
Lauren,
seeing
it's not
it.
up.
You're not seeing it at all? Okay, never mind. It's scratch that. Okay. Get out of there.
It is under the customizable labels though, so
Yes,
that's where you're going to get it within the if then online.
Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we just can't see the labels. Can you double click on your label document?
I did, but what it is I'm screen sharing the internet, so I'd have to open it.
I think you need to share that document itself.
Yeah, I would screen share. So essentially what it looks like is what you see in the if then with little cards that you can leave the student. Yeah. Another area that I just want to point out to you is the writing pathways. So we're going to talk a lot about this section tomorrow in assessment, but here is where you're going, if you're going to scroll down, you're going to see student writing samples for every genre. So this is opinion writing. Here are the student writing samples. So these are where we actually pulled them from today. So you can get a kind of a better idea as to where some samples looking at students and where they're at.
And one of the things that I really like about this is the fact that they actually give you a vertical showing of from grade 1 all the way to grade 6. So knowing, of course, that you're going to have students that are reading or writing at different levels. And so it gives you some samples so that you can see that progression over time.
Jody, where are the annotated pieces now? I thought they were in here.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, go. They are writing through the progression right there. Yeah.
So if I just click on a grade 3, for example, here's your annotated piece. So the writer grouped information into parts. The subtopic fit within the main topic, predominantly well organized. So it gives you the notes. And I think that this is something that's really powerful to see. And another recommendation that I would have is not only to look through these to kind of coach yourself on areas on what to look for in writing, but doing it at grades below and above as well, because you're always going to have students who are writing quite well below and well above, but you still want to use the language like you heard Carl Anderson using to boost that level of writing. So using things like descriptive details, action facts, and helping them to truly understand what to use in their writing.
Thank you, Lauren. On the next slide, what we want to show you on the next slide, Lauren, unless you want to talk about, yes. We want to show you different ways. Now on Pinterest, Teacher Pay Teachers, there's already all kinds of stuff created to help you organizing your record keeping and that scheduling. So you need to find a way that works for you. One, I've seen it different ways. Like I've seen people having those anchor chart with all the little post-it and having students putting their names on a post-it saying, I'm working on this goal. So it's very visible for the goal. Then we've got that sheet. Like there's different types really. Let's move on to the next one, Lauren. But what I want to show is as a teacher, you want to be organized. So as we said, that schedule, you may not work with the struggling writers at the same frequency as your strong writers. So you need to decide what's priority. But also, like, because I'm sure in your mind now, you're thinking, God, this is awesome, but I don't have the time to sit with all of my students. Well, it's kind of similar to your guided reading or your small group reading, where if you're starting to see needs. So in my class, what I used to have was a big paper with a table with 1 square per student. So that was my way for me to keep track of who did I confer with. So the blank that were remaining empty, then I knew by Friday I had to touch base with them. But then also I used to use that sheet to write down, okay, this kid needs to work on that organization. So under that name, I might say organization. This would help me to group students together. So if Lauren and Jody had struggling with organization, well, we could definitely do that instead of doing that one-on-one individual conference. I might group them together and we may talk about that organization together. So it's kind of becoming a small group. So you're saving time. And for students, sometimes to help them understanding a concept, it might be good for Lauren to see what Jody did in her own writing, right? So just seeing each other's work might be super powerful. So this is a good way for you to group. So this sheet, for example, would be creating your small group. Students who need to work on that elaboration, you would make a list of all the students there.
And we did, when you get the presentation shared with you, you'll see we left you a link for an area you can look at what conferring looks like in small groups.
Yes. Conferring toolkit, super helpful as a for a teacher, but this is something that you're going to build over time. Jody, I'm not sure if you have yours and you want to show it, but this is just like Jody used a plastic, you can see the picture of hers, something like this, in which she's got different sections for different things. So she's got mentor text, she's got a copy of the learning progression, we'll show you these tomorrow. She's got some sample of students writing. This is the best advice that I can give you. When you start in September working with students, and if you see that Kim did a fantastic introduction, then ask him, Kim, can I keep your copy? And you take a photocopy of her writing and you keep that. So if you're working with Lauren and you want to show what a strong introduction looks like, then you can show Kim's sampler. You want to show your writer's notebook, because remember, the teacher, you should have your own personal notebook so you can refer back to this. You're going to have the mini anchor chart. You'll want post-its. As you know, we love post-its. Me, when I leave the students after my conference, I would always leave the kid with a post-it on their notebook, on their writing, saying what's the goal, what do they need to work on, and then that record keeping sheet. So this is a toolkit that you would build over time.
Julie, I'm just going to share a really quick hack as well, is that some teachers have used like a receipt book where it has that copy. So that they left the note, they took the perforated top copy off, gave that to the student, but then they kept the copy for themselves so that they could see the details of their conference, what the student's working on, and what was the teaching point that they were left with, that they can then come back to that and have a record of it.
Now, because we're talking about Carl, I'm going to give the mic to Lauren.
Yeah, you guys have only left me 2 minutes talking about my love of Carl Anderson. Thanks a lot. There's a lot of resources. One of the resources here, and like I said, we'd left you a link. You can watch Conferring happen. And you'll see that there's like a tiny URL within the slideshow when we send it to you later. And then we left you a topic, a video to go look for, because they're all kind of listed. We couldn't link it specifically. So the Reading and Writing Project has some great things. Carl Anderson, how's it going? Writing conferences. Okay, really quick. He is the master of it. But what I love is, so first of all, the kind of the practical guide to conferring, how's it going? But again, teaching and coaching that language for students are able to answer you. But his latest book, which I absolutely love, which is Writing Conferences, is amazing. So that video that I showed you today, and I showed you the list of videos and how he does the debrief with the student writing, is in this resource. But what's also great about it is it's a super quick read and it's super friendly. So half of the book is comics. So it's a comic about like, oh, hey, what are you working on in your writing today? Well, I don't really know. And then what are the moves that you can take to get them there? And the other thing that I really like about it is he talks about when a student wants to work on something that you don't really want to get behind. Like they want to work on their lead. Okay, Julie, like you've been working on your lead a lot and you've had a bunch of different examples and you're doing a really good job, but you don't want to say that. Like, we're not going to work on your lead today. So ways that you can kind of coach and move the student to work on something that you think that they need to work on. So he uses the language when you can get behind what they want to confer about and when you can't get behind it. And so what your approach looks like. And he's very candid in there talking about how he was absolutely terrible at conferring when he first started. So it's an absolutely great read. And even just having those videos as a resource alone is worth it. Last thing, oops, excellent, okay, never mind.
Mentor text. Lauren's going to talk to us about mentor text.
Yes. So the last thing we shared with you in one of the other presentations, a link to mentor text, and I said I would share another one with you. So this one's awesome. It's actually a document that you could download, and it's specific craft moves, right? And so what the small moments are. So when we look at that example of the lesson I shared, if you were part of that, we're going to talk about what a small moment is. Here's all of the small moments and things that you can do to boost that piece of writing. And now here's all your mentor text. And talking about within a different genre as well. So this is literally pure gold. So you're welcome. And a really, 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 really great resource to have. Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that you don't need to use the mentor texts that are provided. You need to use the texts that are speaking to you, right? So make sure to feel free to use your own favorite read aloud. I think this is it. 12:01, girls. Woohoo! We are going to stay on for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions, please stay on. If not, well, we're going to see you again. I forget when. Tomorrow? The day after? Soon. Anyway, hopefully you're going to join us. We are going to share with you the recording of this session. And Jody, you can stop the recording if you want to. Okay. And we'll go back to your question and see what we did not answer. But otherwise, ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. And feel free to stay if you have any questions. Bye.